Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to today's webinar, Three Ways to Exponential Growth. I am Jonathan Bass. I'm the Content Marketing Manager over at RevenueWell, and I am so happy for today's webinar. Bernie Stoltz is our guest speaker. Bernie is the CEO of Fortune Management and so much more beyond that. Bernie's a motivator. He's a public speaker. He is a coach who has over 30 years of working in the healthcare community and just really helping build up practices to unparalleled success. So in a moment here, I'll pass it off to Bernie, and he will deliver his presentation. Depending on how things go, if we have a little time at the end, we will hold a Q&A session, and it should be a good time. So without further ado, Bernie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. Greetings from California, and good to be here. And we wanted to put something together today that was really a big picture look at a dental practice. So I want to start off actually with as Stephen Covey used to say, begin with the end in mind. So really what we're looking at here is three ways to exponentially grow a dental practice. And so people always say, well, how is it that Fortune over the years, how is it that you enjoy the success of being able to grow your dental practices by on average over 30% a year? And a lot of people say, wow, that doesn't sound like it's possible. It's absolutely possible, and we do it on a grand scale at this point. At this point, Fortune Management is the leading and the largest executive coaching organization in the world for dentists. We've got about 100 advisors in about 80 markets, and at any given time, about 1,200 dental practices under management that probably represent about $2 billion a year. So I think we got a pretty good track record over the last 30 years of knowing how to grow. And, just to put out in front what we're going to be covering here over the next hour is what are those three ways that we want to really, really get a jump on the growth of a dental practice. One of them is obviously the one that everyone's aware of, which is new patient acquisition. That's not a secret. Unfortunately, though, for years and years, part of the reason why I think dental practices have kind of come up short on their annual growth is because that's the only dimension that a lot of people look at. In other words, a lot of doctors will say, look, you know what, give me more new patients and everything will be great. Well, that's not necessarily true, because if you bring in a lot of great patients through a lot of marketing that may or may not be costing you a lot of money, it's still got to be a good business. It's still got to be a great practice, or you're not going to hold them. So exponential growth requires three different silos of growth. One being acquisition and new patients, and I'm going to give you some stuff today about that can probably help you there. But the second dimension is as important, maybe more important, and that is frequency of the patients that you already have. And we'll get into some of that. And then, of course, the third way to grow exponentially and to create a synergistic approach to growth in the dental practice is how do we become worth more per visit? And I'll get into a whole bunch of different decisions that a practice can make on that. So that's really where we're going to go. And I'll show you what the net effect of it is. The net effect of it is to be able to grow a dental practice by anywhere from 33 to 72% a year. And that's not a pipe dream. That's real. We do it every year. So without further ado, let me start off with this slide. And really this, if you were putting notes down, this is my life is not fair slide. What I mean by that is if we look at the big picture of a dental practice, we know that you need to master three dimensions to the practice. There's got to be management systems or structure in place. There's also got to be great clinical skills, which today also includes great technology. But then there's also got to be great communication skills. And unfortunately, that's probably where some practices will woefully fall short. One of the things that I've learned in 30 years of coaching dentists and dental practices is that the greatest and most successful dental practices in our culture today are the ones who have made a conscious commitment to being master communicators. They understand that every word that comes out of our mouth is either going to push people away or bring people toward us. We also understand that that's probably one of the key dimensions of how you're judged, how you're graded on social media, is how the team and the doctor communicate. So communication skills are huge. Obviously, we at Fortune, we spend a lot of time in our training universities on giving everybody the right communication skill set. Because unfortunately, 90% of most dental patients cannot gauge you or judge you on your clinical skills, but they can certainly judge you on how the phone was answered, or did they wait, or was it affordable, and were people super helpful. So communication skills are huge. The next slide that I'm going to give you is one that would be a great checklist for a practice. It's what we do whenever we go in and first take a look at engaging in dental practice. And we say, look, first of all, does the team and the doctor, are they really laser focused on their vision? And I would say there's two different dimensions to the vision of any business. I think there's a structural side to the vision, and I think there's a philosophical side to the vision. I'll give you some structural questions that can help you to determine and get that vision laser focused. But on the philosophical side, I think that's just as important too. And those are things like making a decision, and these are things that have to come from the doctor. First of all, how do they view their patients? Do they look at them as patients that are getting dental care done, or are they maybe viewing them as friends that they can get emotionally connected to? That's a challenge that I would put out to every dental practice out there, because, I don't know what you want, but I want friends. And the reason I want friends is because you and I both know some things about friends. We know that friends usually keep their appointments with friends. We know that friends usually accept the trusted advice of their friends. Friends usually pay money when owed to friends. And probably most important as a marketing aspect, friends will send more friends. And make no mistake, when we talk about new patient acquisition today, there is no stronger marketing for dental practice than what we call social proof, word of mouth, cloning your patient base. What if we could show you a way to make sure that every one of your existing patients was willing to send you 2 more patients over the next calendar year? And I would make a case that those would be well-qualified patients who are already sold on you before they walk in for the first visit. So part of the vision has to be about emotional connectivity and friendship. The other part of the leadership vision has to be, how does the dentist, the owner dentist, how do they take a look at their team? Because there's a choice to be made there too. Do we want a team of employees doing a job for a paycheck and putting in hours, or conversely, would our vision be one that requires us to look at everybody as partners who are doing purposeful, meaningful work and have a voice in the business? So those are some big picture vision. I'll give you the structural vision questions in another slide. But what we also say is, once the team is clear on the vision, then there are 5 engines that have to be fully turned on for that practice to achieve its vision. What are the 5 engines? I've got them up there on the screen for you. First of all, it's a financial engine. Lots of elements of a great financial engine, from making sure your UCR fee schedules are adjusted every year, to making sure you got good financial policies and arrangements, to making sure that you have made dentistry affordable with third-party optional payment plans. Also, more and more today, you've got to make a decision on your insurance position. I, for one, am not an insurance basher. I believe that insurance is just another form of marketing, and there are ways to mitigate your PPO insurance relationships today. So those, and the other part of the financial engine is to make sure that the doctor and team are practicing what I call open book management, and making sure that they're taking a look at the ultimate monitor in their business, which is their income and expense monitor, and making sure that they're running a profitable business. When we talk about organizational, I'm talking about systems. There are probably 7 or 8 systems that if a dental practice was to execute on them effectively, not only is it impossible to fail, but I think it's impossible not to grow. Let me give you a list of those. First and foremost, probably the most important one is scheduling to goal methodology. There is no one system that impacts a dental practice more than scheduling to goal, because if you think about it, if it's done right, it affects the productivity of the business, the profitability of the business, it affects patient customer service, and it also affects the stress level of the team. So definitely number one system. But I think also you got to have good financial policies and arrangements. That's a system. I think recare and reactivation, which is something that our partners at Revenue Well do probably better than anybody else. That's a system. I think the new patient experience is a system. I think having an effective bonus system for the team that makes them partners is an important system. I think team huddles, team meetings, all of those things lead to having a really good set of systems. Clinical and technology, that's an engine that is ultra important today. First of all, clinically, one of the ways that you become worth more per visit is by deciding and expanding on that menu of services. If it's a general practice today, you've got so many adjunct services that could be offered that would increase your revenue, things like Invisalign, to placing your own implants, to treating sleep apnea, all of those kind of things. And of course, to do those things today, you need technology. And of course, we're big fans of single visit dentistry. CEREC is a big one for us. Cone beam technology is a big one for us. Lasers are a big one for us. And so I think it's important to really get clear on what technology, so that you can do all those adjunct services. So that's a huge engine. Sales and marketing, I'll get into that a little deeper, but I think there's 5 areas of sales and marketing in a dental practice. On the front end, there's branding and identity. I think there's also a whole social media strategy. I also believe that there has to be a good external marketing campaign. There also has to be a great internal marketing campaign, which I usually call the spirit of hospitality. And then also, I think great teams have great case presentation and enrollment skills, and that can be a system as well. And I'll get into a little bit of that too. And the last engine is the most important one, which is your people engine. You can't do anything without great people. One of my mottos and how we built our company over the last 30 years is by making sure that we are in the personal development business. My own personal feeling is you don't grow a business, you grow the people within it. And that means that, they're communicating in a way. I think to have a great people engine, first of all, everyone's got to be on board with the vision. They've got to also be accountable to one another for a set of team agreements, or what we call code of conduct. I also think they've got to enjoy good relationships, and that means trusting one another. And I also think they've got to really focus on being master communicators as well. So, and here's the good news, guys. If all 5 of those engines are executed fully, I think it's going to be pretty easy to get after that vision, but doing it in a good way where you're doing purposeful work and sharing meaningful relationships. let's talk a little bit about vision. I said I'd give you some structural vision questions. These are ones that we ask our teams to go through in a one-day annual planning process in every single market in the United States, usually in the fourth quarter of every year. And so once a year, these teams are going to sit down and they're going to answer these questions, which become the structural vision for the new year. You know, how much will we produce and collect and really provide the doctor in pre-tax earnings? How many days are we going to do it in? What's our culture going to look like? What's our standard of care going to look like? What's our patient base going to look like? What's a facility going to look like? Those are things that should be recalibrated every 12 months. I was doing another webinar with an interview a few months ago, and the person interviewing me asked a question. He goes, what is the secret to fortune management of how you have continued to grow and be the leader in your field over now almost 3 decades? And I said, well, I think first of all, it's the people that we have. I think we've got the greatest coaches in the profession. But I would also say that one of the reasons is because we treat every year at Fortune Management as if we were a startup. So we're a 30-year-old startup. But what I mean by that is that, you know, I'll coin a phrase from Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, and he said, you know, when you're green, you grow, when you're ripe, you rot, and there's no in between. And I think that's the same in a business as well as a human being. So every year we should be expanding our goals, and that means broadening a laser-focused vision. The other question I get is, well, how do you get the team on board to take the journey? Because a lot of people out there, they're going to ask that with them question that I talk about. What's in it for me? And is everyone committed to a shared vision? Is the doctor willing to be a leader? But to answer the what's in it for me, we're really, really big on win-win bonus systems that we put in place, whereas the team really acts as a partner to the doctor, and on a monthly basis, they are setting new goals and that are tied to everybody's income. One thing that, if you have any interest on our bonus systems and how those work, go to our website, fortunemgmt.com, and contact whoever your local practice advisors in your area. They'd be happy to talk to you about that. And of course, leadership's important, right? So one of the things that I always say and what we teach at Fortune is great leadership. And this is not just for the dentist who's the owner. I think that it's important that the doctors do show great leadership. But I always, when I'm speaking to a large audience, I make sure that everybody in the audience knows that everybody is a leader, whether you're a leader in your family, your church, your community, or in the practice. And I think I've had the great fortune over the years to be around enough great leaders to see that success leaves clues. And if I was going to give you 8 different qualities of a leader, here's what I'd give you. Number 1 is great leaders have a set of core beliefs. What that means is beliefs that are so strong that they're non-negotiable. I mean, you think over our history of some of the great leaders. I mean, Gandhi had beliefs, Mandela had beliefs, JFK had beliefs, Reagan had beliefs, Martin Luther King had beliefs. These are people, Mother Teresa had beliefs. I mean, these are people who their beliefs were so strong that they didn't affect just the time that they lived in, but they affected the world after they were gone. So I think same thing in your practice. You got to have core beliefs. You got to stand for what you stand for and never waver from that. Second thing is you got to be an optimist, guys. And optimism, really, I'll define it a couple ways. First of all, optimism means that you're always willing to be a problem solver and never a problem maker in your practice or in your life. But I'll give it to you another way too. An optimist is someone who's always willing to see the future better than what it really is. They're also willing to see it as it really is, but they're never willing to make it worse than it ever is, than it really is. So, being an optimist just means that you have vision. Third one is courage. Courage means that you're willing to expand and grow and take asymmetric risk in the field of dentistry about where it's going. This profession is changing immensely, and it's important that you get out in front of it. Fourth thing I see of great leaders is they all do their homework, preparation. Henry Ford had a great saying. He said, luck, L-U-C-K, nothing more than the intersection of really opportunity and preparedness. And if we're all really honest with ourselves, we live in a world of opportunity today. The question is, were we ready when it came knocking? The fifth thing I see with great leaders is they understand they can't do it alone. Teamwork. And one of the things that you got to be very careful, especially if you're the business owner, is believing that you've got to have all the answers all the time. Why would you do that? That would just, you limit your practice to your own abilities. Well, I think what great leaders do is they seek lots of outside voices and inside voices, and they detach themselves from the ego so that they can be open to new ideas. The sixth thing that great leaders have in common is they're great communicators, and communication is the key. I already spoke about that, but let me give you 7 and 8. 7 is great leaders are also willing to make decisions quickly. They don't sit there and dwell on things. They understand that decisions need to be made. And of course, the question a lot of times comes in, well, how do I know what's the right decision? Well, when all else fails, go to point number 8, which is do the right thing. Count on your true north. It's called integrity. So that's a little bit about leadership. The other thing we work on our teams a lot on is understanding that we at Fortune as executive coaches are peak performance trainers. And we know that anyone who comes to our programs, who are clients of ours around the country, they want, above all, they want results. And the results may vary. It could be to have a better team. It can be to have, to make more money. It can be to raise the standard of care. Results will vary. But what we know today is, in human behavior, we know how results happen. And it starts with belief systems. And so one of the things I would have you guys look at as far as your team and the doctor is, what do you believe? What do you believe about dentistry? What do you believe about the world? What do you believe about people? You're in the people business. But especially, what do you believe about dentistry? I mean, I can give you a couple of beliefs I think are shared by a lot of really great teams. And one belief is that every patient that comes into our practice has the right to be offered the very best we have to give. And we're not going to have prejudices based on their insurance plans, or the car they drive, or the clothes they wear. Another belief I think would really serve you would be to say that dentistry is a great investment. I defy people to tell me the last time you completed a big elective case, call it $5, $10, $15, $20, $40, $50,000, where people have spent serious coin to improve their smile. Think about it in your own office. When was the last time someone paid that kind of money and then came back to you and said, I wish I hadn't done this? Rarely ever. Usually it's the opposite. Usually it's people coming back to you and saying, man, I wish I would have did this 5 years, 10 years earlier. So your belief systems are important because your belief systems create a state of mind. Your state of mind determines how you behave, and good results come from how we behave. So what I'm showing on the screen here is what we call our success cycle. It's how we get a dental team on a roll, because when the whole team starts believing the right things and they show up every day in the right state of mind and they behave in a way to get winning results, then it starts reinforcing their belief systems of what they can do and what's possible now. So that's huge. And by the way, you can use this for any peak performance area of your life, whether you're an athlete or a business person or just want to be a better parent. Next thing, go a little deeper into the state of mind. State of mind is 3 ways. That means your physiology, your focus, and also the words that you use. One of the things that I'd put in your notes is, first of all, understand that your brain is nothing but a giant Google search engine, and whatever the questions you ask it, it's going to bring forth answers. So one thing I'd write down is the quality of one's life comes down to the quality of the questions they're willing to ask. If you ask great questions, you get great answers. You ask bad questions that start with words like why, then you're probably not going to get good answers. So really important that you know, everything. Let's back it up a little bit. All of success in business is going to be about your psychology, the psychology of a total team, but also the psychology of every single person that works in that practice. So we're big on making sure that people have their heads right. All right, let's get to the 3 ways. This is what I said at the top of the hour. I said, if you're going to really, really tap into exponential, synergistic growth to a dental practice, you want to tap into all 3 elements of it. And one of the biggest mistakes over the last 30 years that I've seen is dental practices only focusing on more new patients. And that's a hard way to grow, because that's a linear way to grow, and you can spend, and it's also the most expensive way. So what we want to do is we want to show you today what are the 3 different ways and what's the net effect of that. Because if we can do all 3 simultaneously and execute on this business plan every 12 months, more new patients, but also making sure that the patients who are already with us are coming in and seeing us more frequently. And then also when they do come in, that we're giving them the highest standard of care and that they're worth more per visit. Let's talk about what that looks like. And I'm going to give you, first of all, I'm going to go forward. Here's the mathematical conversation here. If you were to pull out your calculator on your iPhone and you were to say, okay, let's multiply 110% by 110% by 110%, the business doesn't grow 10%, it grows 33%. And what if we took on a new practice and we set our sights on growing the patient base by 20%, growing the frequency of recare and reactivation by 20%, and also growing what we're worth per visit by 20%. That's a 72% explosion in a dental practice. That's how you take a typical $800,000 a year practice, which is what the average GP in this country does, and making it $1.2 million to $1.4 million in a 12-month cycle. That's how you do it. You do it with exponential growth. Now let's back up a little bit and let's give you some good ideas on more new patient acquisition. If I was going to give you 5 or 6 things I think every listener could execute on quickly, let me give you, and here is a whole list of things, but let me focus on what I think are 6 things that would, if you just did these 6 things, I think you'd have plenty of new patients. First one is have a really, really good website. And our, opinion of a great website today is one that is totally flexible, one where changes and new content can be uploaded and downloaded from inside the office on a weekly basis with new content. That's what Google wants. That's what's going to optimize organic search engines. So I think having a great website is the storefront to your business. Second thing, you got to have a Facebook strategy. And I mean, that's also got to be just as portable as your website. Third thing you have to do is you have to master online reviews. Fourth thing you have to do is you certainly have to have a care to share program, and we're big on gift cards, and we go way out of the box on that. We think that every patient that comes into your practice should get a couple hard plastic gift cards, no different than a Starbucks card. The only difference is these are worth $200 per patient, and they're for new patients only to give to their friends, their coworkers, their neighbors, their loved ones. One of the greatest compliments that you can give to a patient at the end of the visit is by when asking them, how was your visit today? And they look at the hygienist and they say, oh, it was great. and you say, thank you so much. And the greatest compliment that you give our dentists and our team would be to refer all your friends and family in to see us, because we'd love to have more patients just like you. Oh, and by the way, we took the liberty of making a couple $200 gift cards for you to share with people who you think may enjoy coming and seeing us at our dental practice. And having 2 cards personally made for every one of those. One of the machines that we say every practice, I think, should go out and buy is a Zebra printer, which really prints hard plastic cards. So I think that's important. Another thing that I think is a must is making sure that over the next 12 months, you are gathering and collecting about 50 video testimonials from happy, satisfied patients. And these can be just, 45-second, one-take wonders. But what you're doing there is you're developing content that can go up and down off your website and off your Facebook page. You can tag it to social media and other online reviews. And because we know today that about 75 to 80% of people looking for a new dental practice are relying on online reviews and video testimonials. So I think you have to master that. Our coaches can show you how to do that. And then the 6th one, which, believe it or not, is still getting good results around the country if done appropriately. And that's the big operative word, if done appropriately. And that is an effective direct mail campaign. And I don't mean marriage mail or junk mail or garbage mail. I'm talking about effective 6-inch by 9-inch, glossy covered one side direct mail pieces that can have 3 or 4 really compelling offers. Maybe there's a new patient, maybe there's a free teeth whitening for life special on there for new patients. Maybe there's an implant special, maybe there's an Invisalign special, maybe there's a second opinion, courtesy second opinion. But keep it to 3 or 4 nice offers. But what you're doing is you're getting yourself out in the community. And for that to work, you really got to commit to about 6 months of hitting mailboxes at least 3 times in a 6-month period. So lots of things you can do there. Let's talk about the second silo of growth, which is frequency. Well, here's where your friends at Revenue Well come in. I mean, nobody does patient communication better than Revenue Well does. And really, I mean, think about this. The national average on recare efficiency for a dental practice is only about 35%. What does that mean? That means that if a practice has, say, 1,000 active patients of record, how many hours of hygiene do they have possible? They have 2,000 hours of hygiene available over the next 12 months. 2,000 hours. So if they're at the national average, it means all they're doing is 700 hours of hygiene. So you got to fix that. And in a lot of areas, our advisors will go in and coach our teams where we can raise your recare efficiency through a series of different things, from 35, 40%, all the way up to 80% and above. In fact, that is our standard for our practices around the country is we want recare effectiveness at 80% or above. That means 80% of our patient base is seen twice a year minimum. The other thing I would also put a little thought in your head about today is who says that you should only clean teeth or see your patients twice a year with healthy mouths? That was a standard of care that was created back in the 1930s by a Madison Avenue marketing company who came up with a snappy jingle for Pepsodent toothpaste that said, brush 2 times a day for 2 minutes a day and see your dental professional 2 times a year. And there's no science to that whatsoever. We have a whole division of our company called Hygiene Mastery, which are the most fantastic hygiene coaches in the business. And we have about 4 years ago, we polled about 1,000 of our hygienists in our network. And the operative question is if it was your decision, if it was your standard of care and insurance was not determining the 2 cleanings a year, how many times would you like to see healthy millennial non-perio challenge mouths in a calendar year? overwhelmingly the response from the hygiene community was 3 cleanings a year. So one of the things that we've created in our national network is something called Plan for Health, which is a in-house plan that you can sell to your patients, especially if they don't have dental insurance or they're retired, that allows you to get your patients in 3 times a year for cleanings, exams, and x-rays. Imagine what that would do for the demand for more hours of hygiene. And also, here's what else we know, guys. We know that for every $1 you grow your hygiene department, it's going to account for $2 in restorative and aesthetic diagnosis. We know 70% of a practicing general dentist's restorative schedule is diagnosed out of the hygiene department. So hygiene is the lifeblood of a modern general dental practice. We are 100% committed to that. You should be as well. Again, Revenue Well has so many different dimensions of how to create frequency and stickiness to the client. So hopefully I'm preaching to the choir on that one. And then more per visit. Well, there's literally 100 ways you can do that too. But let's speak to the obvious ones. First of all, how many of you are not raising your UCR fees at the beginning of every new calendar year? You should be doing that. Also, single visit dentistry. CEREC technology makes you worth more per visit. If you can do it in 1 visit instead of 2, you're worth more. 3D imaging makes you worth more per visit. Medical billing, treating sleep apnea. But also, effective use of intraoral camera makes you worth more per visit. But then there's also basic things like scheduling to goal methodology. You know, if you put a great schedule together for your providers every day, they're worth more per hour. And then also better enrollment skills. If your acceptance ratio is higher, then you're worth more per hour as well. So again, there's the growth pattern there of, you know, and again, I think you sit down with your team and you come up with a strategy on all 3 of those dimensions. What are all the things we're willing to do in the new patient acquisition area? What are all the things we're willing to do for frequency? What are all the decisions we want to make to be worth more per visit? And I think all of those things should support the beginning of this conversation, which is what's the vision? What's the vision for the doctor and the team, both financially as well as philosophically? These are the things that you look at. Speaking of enrollment skills, I did want to kind of give you guys a few things here that we have taught for years as far as having a flight plan for good case presentation. And the first thing that we always say is how are you going to be able to really deliver on the patient's wants and needs and core values if you don't ask the question, right? So, and even before that, are you in rapport? So one of the things that we say, step number 1, establish great rapport. You know what that means? That means smiling. That means listening. That means matching and mirroring skills. That should happen from the very first time a new patient comes into practice. Second part of it is you got to find out what the patient wants and how they want it. If you're writing anything in your notes, write this down. Call it Bernie's definition of success. Find out what people want and how they want it, and then fill the need quickly and elegantly. If we did that more in dentistry, instead of trying to sell things that patients don't necessarily want, we would be better off. Third thing we want to do is give them what they want. So if we know what they want and how they want it, and then we present the treatment that way, we're going to get much better case acceptance. The fourth thing I say is get a commitment. And unfortunately, the way that a lot of people ask for the commitment to the treatment plan is a little weak. And I'm going to give you some specifics in a moment about how to do that. And of course, here's the other thing. How many times have you had somebody agree to a treatment plan? They've got it scheduled, and then 2 hours or 2 days later, they call back and they say, hey, I think I'm going to have to put that off, or I've got to cancel, or I got to think about it. One final thing that I think gets overlooked is the minute that somebody decides to get healthy, the minute someone decides to move forward with your treatment plan and get care, we must do a better job of congratulating them. Congratulate them on a great investment that they're making in their oral health. Things that can make them look better, live longer, feel better, sleep better. These are emotional things that we've got to hammer home when we're after we've got them to sign the financial arrangement. So here's a great question that you should be asking every single patient, especially the new patients. And that is, what's most important to you in the care that you receive? What is most important to them? Now, I will tell you, if you're writing notes here, there are 5 major core values of a dental patient. One of them might be money. Another one might be time. Another one might be quality. Another one might be comfort. And another one might be trust. But let me give you 5 alternative core values. It might be money, but maybe it's not money. Maybe the word that you're looking for, or the patient's looking for, is affordability. It might be honoring their time, or it could be, have we made the care convenient for them? Convenience. It could be quality, but also a lot of patients, their definition of quality is aesthetics or better health. So we got to ask that question. And you know, it could be trust, but it could just be relationship as well. But we got to know what it is that the patient is coming to you for and what they want. These are the highest core values of a dental patient. And just finding out the core values is not enough. What we also have to do is go one step further with another powerful question. And that is, what has to happen in order for you to feel like you're receiving whatever their highest core value is? So if for instance, if we interview a new patient in a non-clinical new patient interview, and we say, well, you know, we do things a little different here at our office. We really want to get to know the patients and what's most important to them. So let me ask you, Mrs. McGillicuddy, what is most important to you in a relationship or in the care that you want to receive from our office today? And maybe they come back and they say, well, I hope it's affordable. Great. So we know affordability is a high core value, but we don't know what the rules of the game are for them as far as affordability. So this question I've got up on the screen here will help you with that. Because what I would ask, the second question I want my treatment coordinator or new patient concierge to ask is what has to happen in order for you to feel like we've made your care affordable? Now what they're going to do is they're going to give us their rules about affordability. You might also want to ask not just about the care, but about relationship too. You know, and what would have to happen in order for you to feel like, you know, we've really gained your trust or we've really built a good relationship with you. So those are really important. Here's another little 4-step process that we teach. I think it can help you a lot if you get stuck at the end of a case presentation, because I think one of the skill sets that every treatment coordinator's got to have is how to handle objections. And one of the things that I see as a mistake out there in the field day by day is if we've done a great job at the whole patient experience and now we are presenting treatment, and if our belief system is correct about dentistry being a great investment and that every patient deserves to be offered the best we have to give, then why would we not assume that they're moving forward? And the easiest way to do that would be to, after presenting the financial arrangement, to just simply say, what works best, mornings or afternoons? Or how soon would you like us to get this scheduled? Or maybe it's single visit dentistry and you say, we can do it today. Should we move forward now? But these are what we call assumptive closes. And I don't see that being done quite as much as it should. Now, if a patient at that point, either I would say 80% of your patients are gonna move forward, but there's always going to be that other 20% that might come up with some pushback to the acceptance, right? And what do you hear out there? You hear things like, well, I got to think about it, or I'll get back to you, or I got to hold off on that, or I've got to talk to my spouse, right? So first of all, get clear. Any of those things that I just said are not true objections. What those are basically code for, I don't want to commit. And so one of the things you have to do is you got to ask what's really holding them back. So I think a very, very non-confrontational question to ask is to just look at them with the right tonality and the right physiology and to say, hey, I'm really concerned. What is really preventing you from moving forward now with the treatment? And really ask them what their real objection is. And there's the operative question there. What is preventing you from moving forward now? Once they give you that, and by the way, you'll find out if you ask that question effectively, one of the things, what they'll probably answer with is one of those 5 core values that they're concerned about, whether it be affordability or time or fear or they're questioning the quality or maybe they don't trust you yet. But let's say, again, we'll use the affordable. They might say, hey, I can't afford it. Well, great. So now you get to put together a new question. And the new question is, so I guess what I hear you saying is, how can I get what I want or need and also overcome the affordability? Isn't that really what you're saying? We need to be willing to ask this question. And of course, the fourth question is, so if I can show you a way to make this thing affordable and also get you that new smile you want or get that implant that you want, would that help you to move forward now? So I gave you very quickly there a 4-step process that I think will really, really at least push to conclusion of whether they're going to schedule. Let me speak to another overriding principle that I have stood for 3 decades now as the leader of Fortune Management, and that is I have tried to run my life, and we run our organization through a basic principle. I call it the law of attraction. And, as I go on in my life, your goals in your life change. Me, at this point in my life, my goal is to improve the lives of as many people as possible while I'm still here on planet Earth. And I think that for every dental practice, we talked about beliefs earlier in the broadcast. And one of the core beliefs that I think would help every dental practice, but also has helped me immensely in my life, is just believing that every relationship you have, the relationships you have at home, the relationships you have with each other in the office, the relationships that you have with your patients, what if you just believed that every relationship that you had was a place you go to give and not a place you go to get? That is so important. And what if the whole world believed that? And what if it wasn't about monitoring and measuring a relationship? And here's what it means. The law of attraction basically means that whatever we send out to the universe responds in kind. What it means is, and this is my belief, is that the universe doesn't know how to say no. It only knows how to say yes. It's a mirror image of who we are. So you got to be very careful about what you send out. What you send out to the world, to the community, to your patient base, to one another. And, it's good to have goals. I mean, I teach goals for a living, and I want people to have the very best life. But it's how you go about going after your goals that's going to matter. You see, I see a lot of people out there, and they, you hear it in their prayers and their demands and in their requests and really what I want that big house on the hill, or I want that bigger practice, or I want that better team, or I want more new patients. And I don't know that the universe hears all that. I think at the end of the day, what the universe just hears maybe is gimme, gimme, gimme. And if what I say is true, the universe will laugh at us sometimes. I think we've all had that happen to us. And it laughs at us and says, no, you got it wrong, bud. You gimme, gimme, gimme. And it reaches out and sometimes sucks the life out of us. And then we scratch our head and wonder why we're always striving, we're never quite arriving, and the wrong people keep showing up in our lives and in our practices. And what I learned 30 years ago now was that, and I said this earlier in the broadcast, the quality of your life will come down to the quality of the questions you're willing to ask on a habitual basis. So what if you just asked a better question? What if the question was, instead of how can we give, how can we get, or how can we get a better practice or get more patients or get more what we want? What if the operative question was, how can I serve? When you send that out through your patients, through your practice, to the patients, to the world responds in kind. Now the universe looks back at us and says, no, you got it wrong. How can we help you? And what I've found is that the world opens up in infinite abundance. My business world has opened up in infinite abundance from that belief. Always lead with your giving hand. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this broadcast this morning. Because there's so many people that I want to give to. I want to give to Revenue Well. I want to give to all their users. I want to give to the dental community. I want to serve. Didn't come here today to get something, but really just to give. A couple other little things as we round out. And then, Jonathan, we may have time to take a couple questions. But one of the things that I would say is if you have any interest in anything that Fortune does as the leader in its field, go to our website. And it's www.fortunemgmt.com. And when I say that we are the most total immersion postgraduate program that exists for the dental community today, I think our website will back that up. From our executive coaching programs to our accredited training universities that run in 60 cities nationwide year-round, to our hygiene mastery division, to our monitoring systems, our cloud-based monitoring systems, to our cloud-based online CE, to our transition program, to financial planning, to HR, to in-house plans, to our charitable division, to our platinum circle, to our startup division. We really are committed to the profession of dentistry more than I think anyone else in our field. The other final gift that we give you, and this is sponsored by Revenue Well as Fortune Management, is that anyone who wants to pursue or take a look at what the opportunities are for their practice, we are issuing a $2,500 gift certificate for any practice to have a complimentary practice analysis and opportunity assessment by one of our Fortune coaches in your market. And if you want to take us up on that, either get a hold of your Revenue Well representative or go to our website and mention the Revenue Well webinar, and we'll be happy to get you hooked up with a local coach. And what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll spend 2 or 3 hours pulling reports and really spending some time and really taking a look at where your practice is and where you want to go. I mean, one of the things that our mantras at Fortune is that, if we teach it, we do it. And if we don't do it, we don't teach it. One of the things that we have professed for almost 30 years is that diagnosis without examination is malpractice. It is for dental practice, but it is for Fortune management as well, which means that we don't know how much we can help you to improve your practice or to get what it is you want or get your goals. So the only way we do it is by coming in and doing an analysis first. And we do that on our time and our dime. And so one of the things that we want to do is going and do that. Thank you so much for the time. It's been a pleasure. Jonathan, do you have any brief Q&A that we may want to field some questions from the audience before we sign off?
Yeah, I think we do. And thank you so much, Bernie. I love that quote by Ray Kroc too. When you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you rot. I mean, that says it all.
That's a key to life, baby. I mean, that's a key to life. And I also think, if you believe that, and you also believe that any relationship you have, either personal or in business, is a place you go to give, not a place you go to get. Those are the kind of things that are belief systems that help to define a great dental practice. I really believe that.
Let's see. On the question front, I think we had one about, could you circle back to that mantra you have of find out what people want how they want it, and then fill it elegantly. Um,
Yeah, quickly and elegantly. Well, what I did is, if you look in the PowerPoint presentation that we did, there are two operative questions there. One is, what's most important to you, which is what we call our WMI question, right? In other words, if every time you're interviewing a new patient and you're willing to start the conversation or start the relationship by saying, what's most important to you in the dental care you want to receive? And then I also gave you an alternative, which is what's most important to you in a relationship with our office? Another third dimension of that would be to say, what's most important to you in a relationship with a dentist, right? So all of those are all about discovering the patient's most important core values. And again, I gave 5 different categories of core values that a dental consumer wants. One of them is money, one's time, one is comfort, one is quality, the other is relationship. And I gave 5 alternatives to that, which could be, it may not be just doing cheap dentistry. It might just have we made the care affordable. It may not be honoring their time. It may be, hey, can we do a 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night cleaning to make it convenient, right? It may not be quality. They may gauge it as aesthetics, or does it look good, or have you helped me to feel better or healthier? So those are core values. I don't see how a dental practice can really perform at the highest level and get the highest level of case acceptance if they're not willing to ask that. And then the second part that I said is you've got values. Your job as a treatment coordinator or anybody in that office is to find out what are their core values, but then what are the rules that patient expects to be met or live by to achieve that. So in other words, if someone says, affordability is the most important core value for me, great. Then the follow-up question is, what would have to happen for you to feel like we've really made the care affordable here? And they might give you some rules on that, like, well, can I make payments, and can we phase the treatment, and different things like that. And my belief is, if you know what's most important to somebody, and then you know how they want it, that is how we teach our teams to present the case presentation. Does that make sense?
I love it. I know we're up against it. We had one other question. If you could touch on.
I'll take one more.
Okay,
yeah, I'll
let's
take
do
one
it.
more.
Do you have any tips for practices to help them schedule to goal?
Absolutely. I mean, we teach a whole course in that, and I would say if you really want a thorough answer to that, get a hold of one of our practice advisors. But here's what I would tell you overall is a couple things. Number one is make sure that on a dentist schedule that we're using on the practice management software perfect day scheduling, and that we're blocking out high production zones. I'm going to oversimplify this by saying, look, if you're a general dentist and you're scheduling for the general dentist, just commit to having 2 rocks in the morning and at least 1 in the afternoon. I think it's going to be hard to not get close to goal if you're at least getting 3 high production procedures in a day, 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. The other thing is you got to limit the amount of single surface, single tooth appointments in any particular day. I think also timing procedures is important. The other key to scheduling the goal is making sure that whenever possible, that my dentist is able to work out of 2 operatories with 2 qualified clinical assistants, so that at all times there's 4-handed dentistry being done, so that the dentist is never without an assistant, but also a patient is in an opposing operatory with a second assistant. To me, that's how you maximize a restorative dentist's daily schedule. That's a really quick answer. I think on the hygiene side, I would also say you cannot load a hygienist up with just prophies all day long. There has to be 2 to 3 hours of some sort of non-surgical periodontal therapy put into that schedule. So again, that's something we've taught for years: rock, sand, water. You got to have some rocks on every one of those provider schedules. So that's a quick answer. They can get more on the website from our coaches on that. But Jonathan, it has been a pleasure and a privilege to be with you guys. We enjoy our partnership with Revenue Well immensely. You guys are doing a great job out there for all of our clients nationwide. And on behalf of all of us at Fortune Management, we wish all of you continued success.
Bernie, thank you so much. This was fantastic. I feel like I learned so much. To everybody in attendance, thank you for coming. We will email a recording of this seminar once we have it. So stay tuned for that. And Bernie, again, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm going to finish with a word that I finish every one of my emails and seminars with: mahalo. Mahalo, for those of you who know, in Hawaii, means thank you, but it means much more than that. It also means with ultimate gratitude and respect. So with that, mahalo, guys.